This is
With the
good.
sausage inside there. A little andouille. You eat double mustard.
Alrighty.
Boy, they're gonna be a lot of this all day, honey.
Oh, we're gonna have boiled and everything.
Hot legs, yeah.
This is going to be you guys riffing for an hour? Is that all it's going to be?
It's up to you. You're moderating.
Yeah, you're moderating.
You can make whatever happen.
Oh no!
You're the puppet master.
Oh. Got the power. Sweet Jesus, the things that we could do. Anyway, hi guys, hi friends, how are you?
Hey!
Don't sound too enthusiastic. Whoa! Okay, don't sound too enthusiastic. This is Wellington, by the way. Cool, you guys have got our friends here. Give them a huge round of applause. Hi, McFarland. David Sobolov?
Yeah, Sobolov.
Sobolov.
Very close.
Yeah. And Mick Wingert. So nice. Hello. Cool. I'll pass around the mic so we can all hear each other.
No, I'm gonna sit here.
And you guys can just sit and chill. And
She didn't get your funny joke.
It's good.
no, I don't. I'm
Pass
sorry.
around the mic, get it?
Oh, right. Oh, okay. The crowd surfing will happen at the end.
It's my first day with this name. I'm trying to make all the jokes that I can.
Get them out fast and then leave it like a high note. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
All right, so any questions to start us off? I saw you, hands straight up. Right, running shoes on. Go free.
Hello. My question's for Mike. Did you think when you were given the role of Muten Hiroshi that you would have like a job for like the next 20 years for the same character?
Yes. No, I have one. It's interesting because that particular role, as your question alludes to, no, I had no idea. But what's been interesting about this particular role is, although Dragon Ball Z has wrapped up, and there was a Dragon Ball GT, and then there's been lots of video games and movie specials and stuff like that. So, although I started this particular working on this character in 1997, I don't think like a year has gone by where I haven't done some sort of Dragon Ball thing where I get to do the character again. So it's been awesome. It's very rare that something like that happens.
Any other questions?
5 minutes.
Don't know if I do this right here. But for these people in the back, the people that I'm blinding with my ears, yes. Because you were just asked about if you had a project that you knew would last for about 20 years. Have you ever had a project where you wish it would just end?
Who's the question for?
All of you.
You get to start.
The financial answer would be no. I want all things to go on at all periods of time. The honest answer is sometimes things with too much screaming, like military games and things like that, or something where you like in the audition you decided, I'm going to do something like this. I'm like, cool, we want you to scream like that for like 8 hours. Like, oh, that was a horrible call I made. I'm going to be chewing and eating gravel and blood for hours.
Yeah, I tend to side with Mike on this one. I want all, in terms of the career building, you always want your property to go on, not only for the financial reason, but it also means that it's serving a need, that there's somebody out there that likes it and that people are connecting with it, so you always want it to go on. Having said that, there are definitely gigs that are favorites and gigs that are not our favorites, or at least I should say not my favorites. And if it went away, I wouldn't be terribly upset.
Example.
No, I value my career too much at this point.
Good call.
But I'm not going to name any names, but there've been a project or two where in the past I've gone, you know, if that didn't come to fruition, it would be okay with me.
Well, and as Mike alluded to, when we audition for things, we can sometimes determine our future. If they love what we do and it's vocally soothing, then it's so much easier.
Yes,
if you scream in an audition, they're going to want screaming in the performance.
This guy can scream all the time.
Yeah, I finally figured that out. So almost everything I do now is almost whispered. And then I go into the callback and I say, just turn it way up, and I'll sound like the voice of God for you.
That's right.
Along of those lines, there's one that I wish would go on forever as a character I just started doing this year on a show called Black Clover. Any of you guys watch Black Clover?
Yep.
I play Gordon. Do you know which one Gordon is? He's the one that looks like Marilyn Manson?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh god.
Everything Gordon says is focused on, you know, to talk any line like this, and that's all he ever says. This is for real. Dialogue I have.
Oh my god.
And I'm the joke because everyone else in the show screams a lot and you never hear what I say. This is what I'll ever do. I was like, I wish all sessions were like this, 8 hours a day. I will do this forever.
Forever.
Yeah. I will do this 5 ever.
Whoa.
Careful.
That's a long time.
5 ever.
Alright, any other questions? Here we go.
Have you ever been recognized on the street if like someone's heard your voice?
I try not to do the like, hey, it's me when I'm right, because I didn't get my toy, and then just duck behind the next aisle. I have had people who, you know, such as yourselves right now, you've seen like a panel or something, you've seen me and you've seen it, like, that's the face now. Or I'll go to a restaurant or the movie store like, hey, you're Mike, here's a hookup. And I'm like, you're awesome. You know, here's a free movie, here's a free appetizer, here's something like that. So in those instances, I've been like, yeah, it is me and whatever else. But as far as just like, hey, generally in the public walking around, maybe a few times ever, but certainly not as much as the on-camera folks that are here at this event as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The great thing about being a voice actor is that you are famous enough to have a fan base that is incredible and so loyal, and we love you. But also, you're not too famous to be able to go out in public. Every once in a while I've had somebody go, oh my gosh, you sound just like Jack Black. And ironically, a friend of mine was at a studio, she's a voice actor as well, and a couple of years ago they were recording some dialogue for Kung Fu Panda 2 at that studio, and she heard me coming down the hall. But it wasn't me, it was Jack Black. So she thought Jack sounded like me, which was pretty awesome. But you know, every once in a while I'll start doing something like this and people will go, oh my God! And then they'll go, you're that dude, you're that guy. Yes, I'm the guy. I am that guy. I am that guy.
They'll usually say, you're that guy from that thing.
Yeah.
They recognize the voice, but they don't know from where. My favorite place to be recognized is when I'm crossing into a country. So if you could just be recognized, they go, oh, that's so cool, come on in.
All right.
Yeah, what happened in Heathrow? He's flying into London, and he said, what do you do for a living? You have to write down what you do, and you're a television and game voice actor. Oh, what have you done? And I mentioned something he knew. What's my favorite show? And then he went all official and he said, the United Kingdom requires that you use the shockwave voice on my phone in order to enter the United Kingdom. And I did a little thing for him, and then we started talking about, you're not really supposed to be coming into countries to work, you know, so you just sort of say you're visiting, whatever, but then if it does come up, there has to be a discussion. He started discussing it with me and he just looked at me and he said, do whatever you want.
Oh, nice.
So that was nice.
Yes.
Small little perk.
Next. Right?
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Last questions.
Hi there, my question is for Mike. Have you started recording any of the Tournament of Power dialogue yet? And if so, are you excited to say probably the ultimate line in all of Super?
I've had a lot of questions about that. We have not started recording Tournament of Power yet, and I can't wait to do it because everyone tells me how awesome all the Roshi stuff is in it. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to like savor that when the moment happens, and I'm going to keep it fresh. So I'll watch it just before I go in to record, so that the moment will still be in my head, so I can hang on to that. But I'm looking forward to it. I think the last things I recall recording lately were some sort of alternate future where Yajirobe is there and he has a beard and he lives underground and with a bunch of other people. And it's a bleak, you know, dystopian society. That was the last thing I remember tracking for Dragon Ball.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm greedy. Do it. Mike, I do know that you not only voice act, but you're also direct with a lot of other projects.
Yeah.
What's it like to go from voice acting and then go into the mindset of going into directing?
It's great because I enjoy both of them so very much. For voice acting, I enjoy just going in there to do my part and be an ensemble, and my responsibility is to the cast and to the director and to give each of those folks what they need and do the character justice and all those sorts of things. And as far as the director, being the director, I get to play the puppet master on everything. So I'm like, I do the casting, I select the types of reads that I want, the types of performances to help hone a tone of a show. And most of what the voice directing I do is adaptive stuff, so it's already been done in another language. So it's up to me to try to make sure that the story maintains all of its proper elements across the board, while not just like mimicking everything and make it its own show, paying homage to the original without just being, you know, a rip-off of the original. So, yeah.
Right front. Hello, sir.
So we all know of your successes, the roles that you managed to land. Have you auditioned for anything that you really wish you got but didn't?
All of the things that I didn't get, I wish I had. Every single thing. Even like really crappy commercials. Because I still, you know, there's parts of me that like, I'm going to save up for the rainy day. And at some point I will retire and enjoy life and travel more and stuff like that. And then also, it's just fun to perform. Like most actors I know, they just like to act. And, you know, and luckily there's a lot of things that, you know, you can make a living at acting, because for a lot of people, including me, I'm like, I'll find someone to act even if there's not a way to make a living. But I just have to really hone that in now, because, you know, you don't want to give it away. But yeah, I just enjoy it so much, and I feel super, super crazy fortunate to find a line of work where I get to express myself artistically and have fun with other people who do the same sorts of things. And because we're all usually just a bunch of fun, crazy people, and that's who I like to surround myself with. So.
For the politically incorrect answer, I'm going to say there are some specific gigs that I auditioned for that I thought, oh man, I would have loved to have gotten that. I was blessed and lucky enough to play the role of Arthur Slugworth in Tom and Jerry and Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which is one of my favorite roles, even though the film itself is, you know, it's just a rehash of the 1970s Willy Wonka and a mediocre one at that. You didn't hear it here, but it's still one of my favorite roles. But I was really dying to be Willy Wonka. I really wanted to be Wonka. Another one that I was super close on that I did not get is in Justice League Action, the newest series. I got to the second. I got a callback on the role of the Joker, but I believe it went to Hamill. And so when you lose the role of the Joker to Mark Hamill, that's really not you know, there's no loss there. I mean, it was his to begin with, so.
Resume. I have experience playing the Joker.
Exactly. Mine.
Yeah.
So I missed out on that one, but there are definitely certain passion projects where you go, or at least for me, the sides come along and I start laying down my audition, and I'm like, I really want this. I want to do this kind of performance. I want to be in this kind of animated production, or this is a character that I know already and I love, and I really want to play this character. And you know, they're few and far between in terms of, you know, when you get that. For me, when I get that like drive to get them, but they're definitely there. The ones that I mentioned being the most specific examples.
You know, I always want to get the characters that I'm known for, because they appear in so many places. Like, it's lovely that if you can book all the Draxes and all the Grods and all the Lobos, but it doesn't always happen. There was Injustice 2, and I played Dr. Fate, and it turned out very well for me with that, but there was also Grodd in that, and I didn't get that. Someone else voiced it. And it turned out funny, because I was so happy with the part I got, but for the most part, I'm just happy, you know, what an opportunity to be doing this for a living. I'll take what I get, you know, and I'm fine with it. I wanted to be Tony the Tiger once. I don't know if you have that here. Yeah. It was funny, they sent me to Tony the Tiger, and they said, we don't want him to be traditional Tony the Tiger, a whole new take on it. Then I arrived, we want the traditional Tony the Tiger. And then the next time I went, they wanted the traditional Tony the Tiger, but I think they only are doing 2 commercials anyway, so.
I remember those sides. They wanted like this hipster version of Tony the Tiger.
They changed their mind then.
The softer, gentler Tony. Like,
yeah. We're getting up in the morning and gonna have some cereal.
Well, that sounds real hip.
Yeah, right? Super hip. This is why I didn't book it. Because I can't do both hipster and Tony the Tiger. But whoever did, booked it.
I've got a long way.
They did like 1 or 2 spots.
Sing a little ditty while I'm making my way downtown. All right, here we go.
So there's the a very famous line from Christopher Sabat that there's the 100 in video game voice acting. Is there ever a point where you're just like over it in a video game role?
It certainly hurts from time to time. The doesn't usually hurt, but the 25 different versions of being shot while having a grenade go off in your chest and falling off of a cliff while on fire, and we need that 25 times, that kind of hurts after a little bit, after 2.
Yeah.
And you still got, to 23 to go. That's right? That's good math, right? 23?
Absolutely.
25.
One.
Yeah.
Yes.
1. One time.
Minus 1, that's 3 quick maths.
Yeah. I don't mind redoing things a lot like that for in context. Like I don't want just copy and paste my screen. I don't want to just copy and paste my screen because it'll be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. The context will be different. But if it is indeed the same thing over and over and over again, you wonder why they don't copy and paste some things from time to time.
I'm probably the, I don't know that I'm the eldest person on this bench, but I am, in terms of my soul, I'm the oldest man here. And so I'm the one that's going to get most misanthropic about how many times do you need me to say huh? I mean, really? We have 7 of them in the can, and you're only going to use 2 of them anyway, but you want me to do 3 more? Sure, let's do 3 more. 3 more huhs. So there are definitely moments where I'm like, okay, I've died 5 times, and this way, and 5 times per style of death, and I'm kind of ready to move on to the next line or for the session to be over. Just, confession time.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they'll have us screaming, and certain producers will have you do, for some reason, 5 or 6 takes of a certain scream, and you don't really need it.
No.
Especially if they can help you, tell you what they want. But at some point in some of the video game sessions, I have to say, this is your 10-minute warning, not to be a diva, but my voice is going to be gone in about 10 minutes,
Yep.
so let's wrap it up, or we're going to be back another day.
Yep.
A voice actor friend of mine, you guys probably know her too, Laura Bailey. Have you guys worked with Laura Bailey?
Laura's
Laura's from Dallas, and I've worked with her many times.
Laura Bailey.
Oh yeah, excellent. Laura was telling me one time, similar to what you were just saying, as far as how many times do you have to do this? I won't say what game or whatever, but they were asking Laura to say a 1-word thing that was for either a game or a trailer or something like that. It was something to the I will change the wording, but it would be like confession. It was something like that, soft and whispery, and it was a delivery of that. And she said she worked on that with the director for 45 minutes. Now, for me, if you are Laura Bailey and you're working on a 1-word thing for 45 minutes, I don't think it's Laura Bailey that's the problem. That's what I have to say.
Yeah. But have you guys ever noticed when you do commercials versus games, they have a different approach?
Yeah.
So when I do a commercial, they'll take 1 word and spend 45 minutes because there's usually 10 producers in the room, and if they don't all ask you to do something, they can't justify being there.
Yeah, right.
We're getting really deep into the inside baseball.
We are.
Way inside.
Yes.
Well, I did a Liquid Plumber commercial once. Liquid Plumber destroys clogged drains. That's all it was.
Yeah, that's it.
But we spent over an hour.
Destroys clogged drains.
Because every single person in that room wanted to tell me how to do it.
Yes.
Hi, yeah, David, that was really good. Can you just do it one more time? And this time, could you hit clogs just a little bit more, but only go up in pitch at the end, but not at the beginning? Can you try that for me? Thank you.
Okay, sure. Can we have a hair clog this time? Last time it was more like food.
Yeah.
It's feeling more foody than hairy.
Yeah.
So we want the hairy clog.
We want the hair clog.
We want the common clog.
That was great, but could you sound taller? Can I hear a little more hair on that?
We've all heard that for real.
It's true.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah, it's so funny. We lost our moderator.
Somewhere out there.
Yes, I'm over here with our next question. Sorry. Hello.
Somewhere out there's a YouTube Sports Center type thing where they're doing a voiceover for a Christmas special, and they have Santa Claus himself come in, and they just need him to say ho ho ho. Let's do a search for that, and that's exactly what we go through all the time. Has 30 people telling him how he should say ho ho ho.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they're all wrong.
Brilliant. All right, here we go.
This question's kind of for the whole panel, but also for Mike, because I saw you tweeted out a few days ago. Have you guys ever thought about getting involved with kind of, they've been popping up with D&D shows lately where they get voice actors on, Critical Role, where they'd get actors on and kind of make a big show out of it. Have you guys, my question is just, have you guys ever thought about getting involved in a kind of show like that?
I know probably 90% of the Critical Role people, and I've known them for 15, 20-ish years, some of them. I watched them play before they had their Twitch show. I'd see them play over at my friend Taliesin's house or at Matt's place and just gather around and have fun. I would, you know, if it ever came down to it, if they, you know, if they invited me and wanted me on for something, sure. As far as me, like me and my buddies making our own Twitch show or whatever, I'm really lazy when it comes to stuff like that, and I just don't want to create the content because I'm lazy. I really just want to go and audition for a thing and have someone hire me. I have some stuff that I have worked on in the creative process. On my Twitter feed, there's a pinned tweet for a animated series that I worked on called My Life as a Monkey. So every so often I'll do things like that, and it's really fun to work on those sorts of things. But as far as like the Twitch show that Matt and those guys have, they're fantastic at it, and I don't want to do that thing myself. But if they want me, like, hey, Mike, come and play sometime for like one time, like, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The D&D renaissance that's happened in the last couple of years between that and the exposure that Stranger Things has given D&D specifically, but also in general role-playing games and dice games, has been amazing. And one of the major things besides laziness, like Mike's, I will cop to that as well, that keeps me back from that is it's both the laziness and I always feel like I'm going to be derivative, like, but I'm not Critical Role, so I'm hesitant to want to jump on something like that and do a gaming thing like that because I don't want people to go, yeah, well, Critical Role did it first. Hey, you're no Matt Mercer.
Why don't you still call your show Critical Not?
Critical Not.
I ran into Matt the other day and I said, Matt, I love what you do. I don't understand it at all, but I love what you do because it's not really D&D was something I was never into. But of course, if they asked me to come on, I'd rise to the occasion and do the best I could.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all would.
Such a nice answer there.
Those are my buddies. I'll go play with them. They're fun.
All right, here we go.
I only don't know Ashley Johnson. I know the
Hey, this one's for the whole panel this time.
Yes!
Have any of you guys watched the Screen Junkie show Honest Trailers? And is there a movie you guys would like to voice an honest trailer for if you have?
Well, I think John does a great job with that.
Yeah.
And it's all, I don't think we need to replace him, but, I don't know. A movie that I would do, It. Has it been done? Probably has, yeah. Yeah, it has. Yeah, well, anything sort of like, where there's not a lot going on, you can just sort of describe more of it in your way.
Yes. I'd like to do some like 80s comedy like Arthur. Like, the honest trailer for Arthur. Dudley Moore is a short man who, you know, that kind of thing. That'd be so fun.
And you could do it like the Clerks 2 joke for the Lord of the Rings movies, like, Lord of the Rings, 9 hours of 4 guys just walking. They're walking from one place to throw something away for 9 hours.
Exactly.
All right, another question. Here we go.
Do you guys wish that you were more noticed for like your smaller roles besides from like, because usually people just know you for like just Dragon Ball Z or just Kung Fu Panda. Do you wish that people kind of knew the smaller stuff, like Show by Rock?
Oh, cool! I'm glad you watched Show by Rock. And for that, my answer was going to be, I'm glad that anybody appreciates anything I do. You know, like I go in there and I do it because it's the type of work that I enjoy doing, and someone thought to cast me for this. They liked what I did in the auditions or whatever, and that brings me personal joy. I love doing this kind of work. I am an artist, I'm an actor, and this is what I want to do. So as far as anybody else knowing anything about it, man, that's so flattering just from the get-go that anybody wants to have anything to do with something that I did at some point. I'm so very flattered and humbled by that. So if they like anything that I've done, it's just beyond the case. Like if you're like, oh, what about Show by Rock? I'm like, oh, you know Show by Rock? So, like, you know, it is neat and nice to hear about such things, but, you know, to be honest, anybody that knows me for anything, I'm floored.
I have to say I feel the same way. Like just the fact that anybody would come out and for example, when we were signing earlier, just anybody that would come out and ask for an autograph from work that I've done, whether it's, you know, doing Kung Fu Panda or doing Iron Man or something else is such an honor. Now, that's not to say that when people come up and bring something obscure that it doesn't touch my heart a little bit, just like Mike said, but it's not that I wish people knew me for those roles, it's that it's always special when somebody knows something small that you did and takes notice of it. It's just it's an affirmation, a reaffirmation of the concept that Mike was talking about in terms of it just being great to have anybody appreciate the work that you do in general. So it's just another way of getting that kind of affirmation, and it's always beautiful.
Sometimes the small things we do aren't small to them.
Right.
They're huge to them. The stories I've heard at conventions, someone saying that at a critical time in their life they saw something and they remembered it. So I always bring a few pictures from a lot of different shows in case that one person comes up, and inevitably they do. But yeah, I'm not really even worried about being noticed, by the way, either. I just want to keep working for the most part.
For sure, yeah.
Give it. Oh, thank you. Give it.
What's the brain? So voice acting. What's the sort of one performance or production role tangential to voice acting that goes into the same projects you do that you're the most sort of reverential or respectful of?
When you say production role tangent, I don't understand.
I mean, like, you have projects like Dragon Ball or Kung Fu Panda or whatever, and then you not only have voice actors like yourself, but then also like the animation team or just people who just run logistics or whatever else. Is there a particular sort of job that stands out to you as being?
For me, the engineer in the room is critical because I completely change our performance, or honor our performance, or ruin our performance. They have the power, and the type of microphone they use, whether or not they understand that, the volume that I throw out sometimes requires a different microphone, or if I want to do something like this is very quiet right now. Sometimes I like to do things very quietly and have them turn them way up. It gives you a different effect. So I really rely on that person to be really professional and really creative. So that's, other than the director, that's my key person.
For me, it's the writer, because they are creating the world, and they're creating, they're hiring me to fulfill the world, to fulfill a character in the world, and to play some, or create a performance that is reactive to the world that they're creating. But for me, story is always upstream of performance. So the farther upstream you are, the more creativity it requires, and that I've always admired that.
You must really like Spawn.
Spawn?
For upstream acting. Spawn.
You. I'm going to reiterate, the three people, or the three folks that seem to have the most positive impact and have the most impact on what I do. The engineers, how they record, how they are able to capture everything. The writing team, how they decide to say a specific turn of a phrase, how they decide to phrase things, how they decide to drive a story. And the director, which can make a huge difference. Do you have a director that's working with you from an emotional standpoint, a story standpoint, or do you have a director who's just going, we just need it louder, or just say it faster? There's all sorts of things that help to have an impact on the way that you perform, and those three key positions are key.
Did you guys ever work?
How about that?
Did you guys ever work with Sue Blue?
I have done.
Never worked
Well,
with
she's retired now for the most part, but there was a director of Beast Wars years ago, Sue Blue. She would act out, when she was directing, her description of what she wanted was in the character that she wanted you to play, and like at the level of excitement. So she would like launch you. It was awesome.
That's cool.
that is cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Another question?
Okay.
The wing is back.
Yes.
The wing.
Awesome costume, by the way.
Thank you.
Amazing. Look at the detail.
I didn't make it. This is actually bought secondhand and repaired.
Well, it's gorgeous.
Thank you. Just like that.
Nice.
You know it. You know it. Anyway, have there been any other voice actors that you've worked with that have really surprised you, like any up and coming voice actors, or anyone experienced you haven't been able to work with that shocked you when you heard what they were going back and actually had voiced? If that makes sense.
What they've done, their resume, what they've done in the past, you mean?
Their resume, or what they were doing in the booth?
Your question alludes to many things. Yeah, well, Peter Cullen, doing Transformers Prime, having Peter Cullen and Frank Welker there in the room with me, like legends from 50 years ago, and seeing them banter is fun because they know each other from back in the day. But yeah, to have Steve Bloom next to me working, and to hear it live versus on television is a whole other experience as well.
The first time I got to work with Rob Paulsen, those of you who know Rob Paulsen who does Yakko Warner and Pinky and a host of other characters, including the original Raphael and the new Donatello. The first time I got to work with Rob, I was really starstruck because he was like the one voice actor from the generation before me that I had never worked with and that I really, really, really looked up to. So it was super fun to get in the room with him and see everything that he's capable of. I mean, that guy, he opens his mouth and it's brilliant. And it has to do with not only his God-given talent, but also his understanding of writing, his understanding of music and the musicality of a character. And sometimes it can be overwhelming when you get in with some of these seasoned professionals, my colleagues here included, when you get in and you go to perform, and they're performing whatever character they booked in the room, and then all of a sudden you're going, oh my gosh, I would never have heard that sound coming out of you, but there it is. That's amazing. And that's happened to me more times than I can count with various performers in the room. You know, somebody who's got a voice like David's, you know, playing a little character up here like this, and it's really funny and it's really good. It's amazing.
Same list for me with many of the people you already mentioned, so I'm going to flip to the other thing about the new up-and-comer type people. I'll just list two. There's a guy named Justin Briner who's been doing a lot of voice acting for the past few years, and that guy is fantastic. And on the female side of things, there's a girl named Bryn April who's been doing things for about 3 or 4 years, and she is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful actor. As far as two people, if you haven't noticed their names yet, you should. They're really, really good. Yeah.
Here we go.
Zip, 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 zip.
This has sort of been answered a little bit already, but with America pretty much been the birthplace of the voice acting art, with people like Pinto Colvig, Walt Disney, Clarence Nash, is there anybody from pretty much the birth of voice acting that really inspired you or made you want to get into the profession?
From that era?
Mel Blanc. For all of us, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he voiced everything for a while.
Yeah, like literally.
Literally everything. Yeah, I grew up with all the little Warner Brothers stuff, the 1930s and 40s. They used to show it Saturday mornings.
Yep. Arthur Q. Bryan is a great character actor. There were old-time radio shows, which were mostly produced in the 30s through the 50s, was the golden age of radio. A lot, if you listen to any of the old comedies, whether it's Fibber McGee and Molly, The Great Gildersleeve, Jack Benny, Fred Allen, Allen's Alley, a lot of those character voices and those radio caricature voices, Charlie McCarthy and Edgar Bergen, those are what Mel stole from and turned into Warner Brothers characters for that, because they were already existing and they were already cultural touchstones of characters and performances that people were hearing. So for the adult audience in the 40s and 50s during the Warner Brother cartoon era, it was so that it would keep the adults engaged, right?
I hear what you're doing.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing so-and-so, that's so funny. And so if you actually get a chance to go back and listen to any of those early American old-time radio shows, you'll hear a lot of that stuff. And I personally have always found that inspiring.
Same.
How much influence do you have on like character decisions? Like you were saying earlier, you went in and did some voices that you really regret doing because you have to yell them later. If you get like a brief for a character that is just like a generic guy, but you want to add a different voice to it, how much influence do you have on that? That's a great question.
Well, the choices I make in the booth for the audition, that's 100% me. Like, as a younger actor, you get into the mindset of, well, what do they want? I'm going to go in there and try to give them what they want. From being on both sides of the mic for many years now, I can tell you that most of the time they don't know exactly what they want, and they're hoping that you're going to just magically provide it for them. So I go in there and just make the decisions based on what I think is right, what I think is right for the character, what I can do that would best show that and showcase what I can do. And if I don't get it, then so be it. There'll be something else that I'll get some other time. but I try not to tailor it towards what I think they may or may not want or what the producers may or may not want, unless they go, do the thing you did on the other show except higher. If they say that, sure, because I want the job. But otherwise, I will just go in and make the best decisions I can based off of the information they've given me.
It really depends, in my experience, on project to project. Some things they pick up your audition and they just bring you in because they know what you can do, they heard what you did in the audition, and that's what they want. And then they have a director there to help you with the emotional moments, but they want the delivery to be in that same character that you gave them in the audition. But in other instances, like for me, I've been playing the character of Poe now for 10 years. I got my start in May of 2008 on the video game for the first feature. So now when we're doing any kind of Poe project, whether it's an animated series or it's a promo or a commercial or some sort of like PSA, I have a lot of license to speak to, this is how Poe would sound, this is not how Poe would sound. And of course, it's on me to not be a diva about it. That's my job. It's okay, if you are gonna say something, don't be a diva about it. But there are times where I've said, I will absolutely give you what you've written here. I just want you to know that I think it's more Poe to say it this way. Could I give you a take like that? And they being the producers involved, have historically been very receptive to that. Because they do recognize that I've had more experience with the character and different writers on this character and how this character might react to the world. And that's always a professional courtesy that I appreciate big time.
More and more on the DC and the Marvel stuff, they'll keep us around for a while, you know, as you guys have experienced. And they get to trust you after a while. And they know that you know the character. So if a company is doing a side project, they rely on you to inform them.
Right.
I did a callback when I was getting into the Guardians of the Galaxy series, and I had done years and years of guest shots, and I asked the director, you know, she'd give me some guidance. She said, you're going to show me what the character is. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Grodd especially, Grodd is very collaborative, and a lot of the things that we put into Grodd came just in the session while we were there.
So
luckily, Jeff Garrett is one of the co-producers of The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, and he's personally directing me, so if we decide to try something different, he doesn't have to get on the phone and get 14 people's permissions. We can just go ahead and do it, which does help.
It's nice.
Nice.
Yes.
Run, kitty!
Run!
Run!
It's Potato Girl.
I was just wondering, is improvising or ad-libbing very common in what you guys do? And if so, do you have a favorite line that made it into the final cut?
I have something.
Yes, go.
Well, it isn't. It'll probably have to see it online. But if you see Legends of Tomorrow that airs in the U.S. on Monday night, that was half of us making shit up, as they say, because it just made sense in the moment. Sometimes we'll get Grodd back and we'll see the picture early, and there'll be this big long space where there has to be a line, so we have to write something that goes in. So they do encourage improv in those cases. A lot of them are very tightly written, though. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, they want you to say every word, and we'll improv just for fun, just to have an extra possibility. Or they call them alts.
Yeah.
They may be an alternate thing we could do. Every project's different, but they want it to be fun. If we're not having fun, you're not having fun.
Sure.
And improv is part of that.
Absolutely. When I'm coaching voice actors and they start to get improv heavy, I always remind them, script is king. Don't change the script. But if you can add character delivery, if you can add a certain turn of a phrase that helps get the script where it is already going and the reaction that your character's already having, feel free. And that's been my experience as well. We were in a session on an episode of Kung Fu Panda, and it was myself and a child actor, and his line was in reaction to another character who said, I'm so self-conscious, my thighs are so sweaty. And his line was, nobody cares about your thighs. And I leaned to him and I said, give me one with, nobody cares about your sweaty thighs. And he did it with the word sweaty in there, just as an improv. And everybody in the booth fell over laughing. Nobody cares about your sweaty thighs. It was so funny.
Did they print that?
That's the one they kept. They printed that one. That's to answer the direct question. That's one of those few instances where you go out of your way to make a funny improv and it gets kept. And that's probably my favorite to date.
For sure for the what I call prelay type stuff that we're discussing, yes, everything you guys said, I completely concur with those sorts of things. With the adaptive stuff, which is a lot of the things that I work on, like Dragon Ball and Show by Rock and stuff like that, they don't want a lot of ad-lib because you have this much finite time to tell a story. They've already animated it, they've already got mouth movements and stuff like that, so you really have to stick close to that. Especially if it's dramatic stuff, like the person who asked the question is dressed like Attack on Titan. There's no ad-libbing in Attack on Titan. We have to go straight forward with whatever the script is. But for comedies, there's a little bit more room for ad-libbing, so you can get the point across while saying it in a different, funny sort of way or whatever, or you can be in the background and do something like that. But for sure, for things that you're helping to shape the characterization of the character and molding the script a little bit, absolutely, there's room for improv, and especially if you're trained at it and know when to do it, when to not, then it's great.
Tangential question for you, Mike. As a director, how often are you rewriting lines that might be translated accurately but not culturally relevant, or need a little sweetness on them?
I call that massaging lines. I massage lines probably 60% of the time. And it's not because the script is bad, it's because I'm like, this is accurate, this works, or whatever, and I'm gonna record it, and if it doesn't sound conversational, if it doesn't flow or whatever, like the writer may not have said all of these lines out loud, the writer may have just been like, I have to turn this in by tomorrow morning, and this is the best I got. I may have a different idea. I say 60%, that's probably an exaggeration. It's probably like a third or a fourth of the time.